Tonight, authorities prepare for an early start to the fire season on the Eyre Peninsula, and Broken Hill Council ticks off items on their agenda.
With the latest from around the region, your nightly news with Louise Hedger begins now.
Good evening. Authorities are warning for people to prepare for an early start to the bushfire season, with warm and dry conditions expected to make for a challenging summer. The Country Fire Service is urging residents to heed their warnings and to prepare properties and bushfire survival plans ahead of time.
It's been one of our driest winters on record, and there's no end in sight. These conditions prompting warnings of a very warm and dry spring season ahead.
Very high odds of having a warmer spring than normal. Odds are getting up above 80% over large parts of the country, and unfortunately also in those drought areas.
Specialist researchers finding parts of the Eyre Peninsula are now facing increased risks of bushfires, keeping authorities on edge, with the Country Fire Service already gearing up for an early start to the season.
We're looking at another dry year this year, so we've had a couple of dry years in a row, so our available fuels or our vegetation will be readily available for fire earlier than normal.
Parts of the Eyre Peninsula only received 22 millimetres of rain over the past month. The Bureau saying that without significant rain, the danger zone could expand.
We also have seen very low soil moisture, so the soils are very dry out there, particularly in those drought areas.
Authorities concerned windy weather could whip up loose soil, prompting concerns of dust storms expected to lash the region.
So dust can be a big issue in several ways. Aircraft struggle to work around in dust storms. Residents urged to heed the warnings and to prepare their properties for what's expected to be a challenging season ahead. Make sure they have their plans in place. Now's the time to do the clean up around their properties and get their housing or their properties ready for this year. Nathan Regter, 7 Spencer Golf News.
4 projects not started by the end of last financial year have been given the go-ahead by Broken Hill councillors. There was some confusion over a $4 million carryover budget at last night's meeting, but the General Manager says it was just a misunderstanding.
Given the go-ahead.
It's really just an accounting measure and a bit of a storm in a teacup, really.
At last night's meeting, councillors approved the carryover of $5 million worth of capital works for this financial year. However, there was some confusion between operational and capital carryover.
I mean, operational carryover might be maintenance works, for instance, that you've planned to do and you haven't quite got to, and what government, like Office Local Government, frown upon.
Mr Ronkin says $3.6 million of the capital works, such as the Library Cultural Precinct, were intended to run across multiple years.
It's normal practice across local governments, across any level of government actually, for capital projects to transcend or straddle financial years.
4 projects which haven't started were also passed, including upgrades to Sturt Park and Picton Oval.
You might start in April and you won't finish till November, so you need to carry that funds over. Sometimes your grants don't come through on time because they're government grants. Councillors
also voted in favour of waiving fees for the RSPCA and RANA to dispose of dead animals at the city's waste facility. Patrick Royenke, 7 Spencer Golf News.
South Australia's Red Cross Blood Service has pulled up in Port Lincoln, with hundreds rolling up their sleeves to make a donation. The state's horror flu season putting pressure on already limited blood supplies.
It's a quick and simple trip that can save someone's life, and in Port Lincoln the opportunity to donate blood or plasma is in demand.
It's actually not uncommon in Port Lincoln to fully book up all of our appointments. It's one of our very best collections in the state.
Donors coming from far and wide, some travelling hundreds of kilometres to visit the Red Van. Trevor Franklin has donated his blood more than 26 times over 5 years, but today he's donating his plasma.
Decided to swap to plasma because a couple of years ago I was getting a bit low on blood myself, so I swapped over to the plasma, which has been a lot better.
The Red Cross need 25,000 donations each week to help patients with cancer, immune disorders, trauma and more. Port Lincoln playing its part with plasma donations almost doubling last year.
Over half your blood is plasma, and from that we can make 18 life-saving products.
More than 300 people are expected to give blood and plasma in Port Lincoln this week. For each person who donates, the lives of 3 others could be saved.
They usually contact you within a day or so to let you know that your takings have helped 2 or 3 people. So.
The blood van will roll out of town tomorrow and make tracks to Port Augusta next month. For more information on how you can donate, visit the Red Cross website. Nathan Regter, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
The Broken Hill Regional Art Gallery and the Geo Centre have received award nominations for their outstanding work. The galleries are finalists in this year's statewide Imagine Awards.
They usually showcase the hard work of talented artists. Now they are in the spotlight.
It's really great to be recognised for that on a state level.
The Imagine Awards are held annually and recognise the best of New South Wales gallery projects and programs. For 2019, the Regional Art Gallery picked up 2 finalist spots, with the Albert Kirsten Geo Centre also getting a gong.
We have been told a number of times that we really punch above our weight in terms of the amount of staff we have and the type of exhibitions and programs that we have.
The Art Gallery is nominated in 2 categories: engagement projects for its Fresh Bark initiative working with Indigenous artists, and sustainability programs for its ongoing collection digitisation. The Geo Centre's Rebel Women of Broken Hill exhibit, the 3rd nomination.
We're up against the Flossie Campbell Mineral Collection, which is the Museum of Australia. Just to be nominated in the same category is a great privilege.
The Imagine Award winners will be announced in November. Patrick Reinke, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Still to come tonight, Beauty and the Beast hits the stage in Whyalla, and a basketball carnival specially designed for children living with a disability. Welcome back. Members of the Port Pirie Orchid Club fear this week's winter flower show could be its last after a decline in plant entries. The club says a lack of interest from young growers has caused the decline.
To outsiders, this looks like the perfect flower, but ask these green thumbs and they'll tell you it's a technical process to pick a winner.
It comes down to what colour, shape, size, all that type of thing.
Mid-North gardeners presenting the pick of their bunch for this year's winter show.
We've got a lot of Australian natives, cymbidiums.
At its peak, the flower show would receive over 100 plants for the competition, but a drop in numbers to just 55 this year has the Orchid Club fearing the worst for 2020.
It's probably going to be our last. We used to have about 18, 19 growers, and we're down to about 6 or 7 growers.
Members say they need more young gardeners coming through the ranks to allow the event to survive.
It's terrible. We can't just get people to join the club, and that they always say they're going to join but never do.
The winter show will begin tomorrow and Saturday. Local growers aiming to pull as many as they can through the doors before the leaves possibly change for next season. Garth Burley, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
After months of rehearsals, the Whyalla Players Group will be performing Beauty and the Beast this weekend. Actors are encouraging the community to come and support the production, with a live orchestra also on the stage.
It's showtime for a classic tale as old as time. Rehearsed by this group several times a week, they're ready for their big Beauty and the Beast debut at the Middleback Arts Theatre.
It's all coming together this weekend. Opening show is on Thursday, and then we've got another 3 performances for the town of Whyalla.
The ticketed show is open for all ages, and some audience members might recognise a familiar face.
So I'm an electrician by trade, but I guess I have a secret hidden talent for singing and dancing and a bit of acting.
All hands on deck to get this production underway, with producers passionate about the story.
Full of life, it's full of romance and a little bit of a few surprises.
A role that I watched growing up on the Disney cartoons, so I've sort of joked that I already know half of the parts, so that's half of the stress.
Community groups also working to get this production on stage.
It's a fantastic show. They've put lots and lots of hours into putting this production together, and we're quite excited about having it here again on the Mac stage.
Tickets are available at the Middleback Arts Theatre.
And we go back over 60 years now, so we have a long and proud tradition of producing quality musicals, and we hope this will be up there with them.
Shari Hams, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
School students have stepped on the basketball court in Port Pirie as part of a carnival targeted especially for people living with a disability. The two-day trip giving students a valuable chance to play sport while meeting new people.
This is the day these basketballers have been striving towards for the whole school year. Time on the court, reward for hard work in the classroom.
All their literacy and numeracy in this particular term focuses on getting to this camp, money, life skills.
130 students living with disabilities across the Mid-North and Spencer Gulf travelling to Port Pirie for the annual carnival.
To participate in sport, but also to interact and socialise with students from other schools.
It began 6 years ago after organisers noticed a gap in the opportunities for students with disabilities. The carnival catering for all ages and abilities.
Everyone is included, so we make adjustments in the rules.
While shooting the most hoops does feed the competitive streak of players,
the kids are always watching who is scoring and who's winning every game.
Teachers say gaining new life experiences is the biggest benefit of the camp.
For our students, it's just mainly about getting out, having a camp. Maybe it's the first time staying away from home.
You hoping to get a win today?
No, not really. It's just about having fun.
Garth Burley, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
For the first time in South Australia, the Wide Angle Film Festival will be presenting a special screening in Whyalla. The arts facilitator says this movie will have something for everyone, with a focus on catering for children living with a disability.
Soon to hit Whyalla's screens. The Wide Angle Film Festival screens programs for all children, no matter their differences.
Represent people with disabilities, or they are made by people with disabilities, and there are different types of screenings, and we're screening the children's versions.
The screening is unique, with special adjustments made, including open captions, audio descriptions and sensory screening.
It's great for all, I think, segments of society that are a minority to see themselves represented on screen. So often we get to see the same type of people over and over again.
The Bardic Studio has brought the idea from New South Wales, meaning it's a soon-to-be nationwide project. For the first time, it will be shown to South Australian audiences.
We've changed the programming so that all of the films now reflect the lived experience of people with disability. We want people with disability right in the centre of Australian screens.
The community is encouraged to come support this event and the children that work tirelessly behind the scenes to create it. It's planned to be shown here at the DeFaces Hall Sunday the 8th.
To share the incredible films made by children with disability and with the participation of children with disability with the Whyalla community.
Shari Hams, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Stay with us after the break. We'll hear from the experts about where the fish are biting and the weather details with Britt. Hello again. Now let's hear from the experts to see the best place to drop your line this weekend.
Welcome another week around the Gulf Fishing Tips in Port Pirie. It's been a cold couple of weeks, but I tell you what, things are really still working well. The Eastern Shoal area is still pulling those big King George whiting, and so too is the top end of Ward Spit. We've told that there's a few yellowtail kingfish in the wharf area in Port Pirie, so you want to work hard with those because they're very smart fish. They will try and bust you off. Salmon trout have been big all through the region, and I think the biggest ones are at the moment around the Port Broughton Channel, so have a try of that. So remember, when you're fishing for salmon, take a kid because it's a great way for them to learn. That's all we've got.
G'day and welcome to this week's Fishing Tips from Port Augusta, Jewel North. Well, change of season is upon us. The magpies are starting to swoop and the wildflowers are out. King George whiting is still around. The slime's definitely started to lift as well, so there's big clumps of that floating around. So last chance to get some King George whiting. Try the Flinders Channel and also down as far as south as Yatala. Squid is still around, not as greater numbers as they have been previously. And they're still getting nice Tommy Ruffs along the shacks up in the mangroves. And try for a few garfish on those nice calm nights out dabbing. That's all we have from the Jewel of the North.
Hi, Whalers Fishing Report this week. Again, some nice sized King George whiting have been coming just south of Cowlitz Landing and around the 4 to 5 metre watermark. If you've got some shallow drops down there, definitely worthwhile having a crack. There's been a few pan-sized snapper coming in the same grounds just on sunset and early in the mornings before sunrise. Not many, but most people picking up a feed. Further out towards Eastern Shoal, still some good numbers of King George whiting. Squid are plentiful down around the Mount Young grounds. Just make sure you stay out of the aquatic reserve.
G'day and welcome to Fishing Tips in Port Lincoln. Well, the main news this week has been salmon down on the south coast. There's been quite a few fish caught and quite a few schools out down on the Sleaford to Wanna stretch of coast, and quite a few fish up around that 2 to 3 kilo size. Back in the bay, the whiting has still been pretty slow. Same with the passage, with the slow tides over the weekend. But there were some good whiting caught out at the group, and also a few squid out that way. Over at Coffin Bay, there have been a few whiting around Farm Beach, but they haven't been prolific. But there have been some nice garfish in the area, and also some nice salmon trout and a few trevally back in the bay system at Coffin Bay. Well, that's it for the fishing tips this week. See you again with more tips next week.
And time to take a look at what's happening in the weather for the rest of the week. Here's Britt Aylan.
Thanks, Louise, and good evening. It's been a mild but mostly sunny day across the region. Port Augusta warmed up to a top of 18, Port Pirie 17, Whyalla, Broken Hill and Adelaide 15, Port Lincoln a top of 14 degrees. From the satellite, we can see a tiny little bit of cloud about the Gulf, but skies remained mostly clear. Moving ahead to tomorrow on the waters, easterly winds tending northeasterly at 15 to 20 knots with swells at 1.5 metres. And it's looking like a sunny day with some areas of morning frost. Woodner with an expected top of 23 degrees, Port Augusta 22, Whyalla and Cleve both 21, Coffin Bay, Corn and Port Pirie all 20, Broken Hill and Port Lincoln both 19, Kadina and Adelaide 18, Clare 17 degrees. Moving further ahead, showers expected at Port Lincoln and Woodner on Saturday with partly cloudy days Sunday and Monday, Cleve remaining partly cloudy through the weekend and into next week. Whyalla, Port Augusta and Kadina all looking fine and partly cloudy across the weekend and on Monday as well. Much the same at Port Pirie and Clare with partly cloudy conditions seeing us through into the new week. Broken Hill with a string of sunny days on the way. And with that, Louise, it's back to you.
All right, thank you for that, Britt. And that's your local news this Thursday evening. Thanks for joining us today. We'll have updates later, but until then, enjoy your evening. Good night.